Eni ALUKO wins Joey Barton libel case over X posts. Yes, so we're going to be looking into this today. Please make sure you like, share, comment, and subscribe. We're looking at this story about former England footballer and pundit Eni ALUKO, who has been awarded more than £300,000 in damages and legal costs after suing Joey Barton for libel over social media posts. So obviously, this is an article from the BBC, which reports an action brought by pundit ALUKO against Barton over two posts he made in 2024 on the social media site X. And earlier, the High Court heard the case had been stayed, meaning proceedings were halted, and Barton was ordered to pay substantial damages. Now, as I understand it, there had been a judgment in relation to two of the posts, and then subsequently in relation to the hearing over the last, I think it's in the last 7 days or the last couple of days or so. Um, the judgment, it was an agreed kind of settlement, as far as I understand it anyway, but we're going to go into that with more detail in a moment. But what this case was about, um, where Lucas brought an action against Barton, was that it was in the High Court, and the barrister for Aluko Gervais Wild said that in two posts, Barton from Houghton had wrongly claimed she had cynically sought to exploit her status as an alleged victim of racism and bullying, and that she was a hypocrite. So Barton, who managed Fleetwood Town and Bristol Rovers, didn't attend the hearing. I'm not going to go into the detail of something else that's happened in the interim, because obviously there's ongoing stuff in relation to that. But essentially, uh, the case related to 48 posts between January and August 2024, relating to Aluka on his X account, carried out, which was said to be a deliberate targeted public campaign of vilification. And yeah, this, because of YouTube, I'm not going to refer to some of it, but there is some quite graphic content. Now, there is a barrister, I believe there is, well, there's a report on what Barton's response to it now is that Barton has now accepted that his campaign against Miss Aluko amounted to harassment. So that's what I was saying about a kind of settlement arrangement. Obviously, there's a judgment and then there's a settlement in terms of what was that he should not have made the publications. And the press association's apparently seen the court order. I have searched for it, but I haven't seen it online myself. But there is an earlier judgment which we're going to go and look into in a moment. But Barton has been told to pay £339,000, with the first £100,000 plus interest due by March 24th, which isn't that long away. And Justice Nicholas Lavender granted Barton 7 days to ask to change the order. And Luco had attended the London court hearing earlier and said, I'm glad it's out. And then, so I do have Aluko, Eni Aluko's, hopefully I'm pronouncing it correctly, her Instagram post about her attendance at that hearing. And you can see that it's been reported across various media, including the Daily Mail. And we can see some pictures of Eni Aluko. This is actually from an Instagram post. I did go and check myself. We reached the finish line. There's a couple of pictures there of her outside the court. Obviously, there's the picture of Joe Barton there. Now, as I understand it, Samuel Solicitors, and that this is their website here, represented footballer and pundit Eni Aluko in a claim against Joe Barton for harassment and libel in relation to a series of publications he posted on various social media platforms in 2024. And as you've just heard, they instructed Gervais D. Wilder 5RB. Now, there's something that's interesting in this case, and you'll see it, I believe, on one of the later posts. Which one was it again? Yes, that's right. This is the 5RB website, and it might be surprising to some, but you can have a situation where barristers, so I'm just going to highlight this bit here. Barristers for part of the same chambers might be, because of their specialism in the area, because barristers are an independent, but because of their specialism in the area, you might find barristers from the same chambers uh, acting for both sides. So, as I said, Gervais D. Wilden, Luke Brown of 5RB, instructed by Judith Thompson and Matthew Howe of Samuel's List, acted for Miss ALUKO, and then you've got Greg Callis and Samuel Rowell also off 5RB, instructed by James Rushove off Astria Linkhill's solicitors acted for Mr. Barton at an earlier stage of the proceedings. So, you've got the barristers there and they're all acting in the same case, which is quite interesting. But I'm going to come back to that summary in a moment. Just back to the uh, Samuel Solicitor's article on this. Uh, there was a response from Matthew Howe of Samuel Solicitors attending the hearing with Gervais. Matthew said, "This is a brilliant outcome for the client. Gervais, D. Wild, and Luke Brown at 5RB, along with Judith Thompson here at Samuels, worked very hard to bring this difficult case to a successful conclusion. High-profile case such as this can be fast-moving and complex and require a dedicated expert team who can respond quickly to developments in the case in the media. So the conclusion of the claim on behalf of ENI ALUKO comes hot on the heels of a successful claim for harassment and defamation brought against Mr. Barton by Jeremy Vine. I might look into that later, actually, in which the same legal team at Samuel Solicitors and 5RB were instructed. And in that case, Mr. Barton was ordered to pay Jeremy Vine a significant sum in damages and costs. So that's the solicitor's perspective on it. It's also something that's reported in the Mirror. I'm not sure if this is going to load, but yeah, there you go. £339,000 ordered in worth of damages and legal costs. Joe Barton losing against former Lioness star. You can see her there. ENI ALUKO. I'm going to make this comment. I have seen some posts on social media regarding this, and the comments. What I'm finding is I do appreciate people have differences over their opinion of ENI ALUKO as a pundit, which I'm not going to go into too much in this video. And there is a longer video on that aspect following her visit to Simon Jordan's Talk Sports show. But I do let's be frank. Some of you, I'm not, maybe not the majority, but there's quite a lot of people who are just simply being racist towards her and being rude about her appearance. I'll be honest with you, that's what's happening. I mean, I guess sharing an opinion is one thing, but being abusive is not acceptable, and I have to say that because that's what I see going on, and it's not acceptable, no matter what people think about her ability as a footballer or a football pundit. But anyway, she has won against Joey Barton in the court of law, £339,000 in damages and legal fees, and that's reported on the Mirror website. And as you'll expect, a lot of the material reported is the same. So we'll just go over here. Hopefully this loads up. I'm not sure why it's taking so much time. Yeah, there we go. Uh, so this is a report on an earlier ruling. This is on from BBC. What's going on here? I'll just play it.
Feel anxious every time I get on TV that my race and my gender is going to be attacked. There is a sort of wider societal element to this, and we're seeing, the rise in sort of misogyny and hatred and sexism towards women. For me, as a black woman, there's an added element to that in racism. I love being an example for other young black girls and women of colour.
There you go. So that's her speaking on the BBC, and I'm just going to go into this further post. It might take some time to load. Yeah, so Joey Barton had been sentenced to 6 months in prison for offence proposed, but I think it's a suspended sentence, or was it an actual sentence?
If during that 18-month period you commit any further offence.
Yeah, that's right. It was a suspended sentence. So this is like quite a while ago.
Counts 2 and 4, the racially aggravated offences, there will be custodial terms of 6 months, and on counts 6, 8, 9 and 10, custodial terms of 4 months, all such terms to run concurrently.
So he's taught. So this is where he was found guilty by a jury at Liverpool Crown Court for sending grossly offensive electronic communication with intent to cause distress or anxiety. So obviously I've been talking about the civil findings. This is obviously criminal findings, which obviously can carry prison time, but it's been suspended.
And all suspended for a period of 18 months.
Yeah, so I'll just move on from that. And as I say, any post that you see on here, it doesn't mean that I'm supporting the main account. I'm just looking at what the media is. Obviously, that was one of the judgments in a criminal hearing. Um, and this is what any ALUKO's kind of facing sometimes from members of the
Not
public.
funny, there is it, Seamus?
I think it's hilarious.
You think it's funny when a black woman has to basically go into hiding because a man with 2.5 million followers has whipped up so much vitriol and hatred towards her? You find that really amusing, do you?
Go into hiding.
Yeah, she had to leave the country. She says she was afraid to leave her house because of the level
Yeah, let's see what the response to that is. It's quite. Let me see.
of online abuse and sexism and racism that she encountered after those comments by Joey Bart. You find that funny, Seamus?
I think we need to keep things in context. This is a very successful woman. She's
So essentially, the shameless person is saying that because she's successful, she must accept racist treatment. I don't know. That doesn't seem too acceptable to me. But we'll move on. But that is kind of some of the background to some of this, and just this is a 13-page judgment from 2025. I'll just scroll to the top of it. It's this, what date was it? 9th of April 2025. As you can see, Gervais, De Wild, and Luke Brown. So as I say, they came to a settlement for the actual final damages amount, 3,339K, inclusive of legal costs and damages. But this was the actual judgment by Mr. Justice Lavender between Eni Aluko and Joseph Barton. That's my phone going off. Joseph Barton. I'll just go through to the end. I did take a look through this there, and you can take a look. You can see that's the reference there. If you do want to take a look at the case. But the key part is, and I will discuss both because there was one thing that wasn't found to be defamatory, and I'm just going to read through this paragraph. So this is the conclusion. The first post had the following meaning. It was both predictable and laughable that the football. So what the judge has done is to analyze the meaning of the Twitter post. I'm not gonna pull them up, so to speak. They were earlier on in the judgment, but the meaning was found that it was both predictable and laughable that the football station had faced calls for a fresh investigation into its handling of the claimant's claims of racism and bullying. And the judge found that that was a statement of opinion and it was not defamatory. But he did find the first post had the following innuendo meaning: in making claims of racism and bullying in respect of a participation in the England women's football team, the claimant cynically sought to exploit her status as an alleged victim of racism and bullying. Her claim to be a victim of racism and bullying was unwarranted. It was both predictable and laughed at. She had to say that was a statement of opinion and it was defamatory. So he found that the statement of opinion, and it was not defamatory, as you can see there, but the first post had the innuendo meaning, and that was a statement of opinion, and that aspect of it was defamatory. So there's the innuendo meaning. And then the second post had the following meaning: the claimant was a hypocrite for saying that the furlough scheme created a do-nothing mentality and a culture of entitlement when she was herself the beneficiary of. And this is completely not true because it's found to be defamatory. So this is, I'm just repeating what's here in the judgment. Beneficiary of dodgy money obtained by her father, a Nigerian senator who ran to England, which has paid for her to have a massive house, 3 Rolls-Royce cars, and a private education. So was found to be untrue. The claimant has on at least one occasion simply sought to exploit her race. Now, what the finding was, and that is, I think that's the final finding in this judgment, that was a statement of opinion insofar as it accused the claimant of hypocrisy, and a statement of fact insofar as it meant that the claimant had on at least one occasion simply sought to exploit her race, and it was defamatory in both respects. So it wasn't true because one of the defenses to defamation, as I understand it, is if it's actually true, but if it's not true, it's defamatory. So, and that's why he's obviously looked at this judgment. He's looked at everything and thought, do you know what? This is just building up expenses and legal costs. Let's settle this. That's what's basically happened there. He just said, you know what? I've looked at all this. I know what I said in those posts. I don't want this bill to build up anymore. It's costing a lot of money. I've also had a judgment from Jeremy Vine as well. I'm just going to settle this. And that's what's happened there, really, isn't it? So that's the judgment. That's the judgment. I think it's on April April 2025, 9th of April 2025, Royal Courts of Justice, High Court of Justice, King's Bench Division, Media and Communications list. All right. And as you can see, I mean, this is just some analysis that I say that's official judgment, April 2025, as I've said. And then that's when we go on to the actual barristers chambers, which they're going to say the same thing, but I just thought to point out that in fact it's the same barrister. I mean, obviously, I think they would have had Chinese walls or whatever in terms of the material coming through, but all the same barristers in the same chambers were acting for all the parties. But obviously, that's not unusual because they have their own, separate arrangements to ensure that there's no conflicts and that sort of thing. But yeah, but that doesn't apply to the solicitors. With the solicitors, obviously they've got different solicitors acting for each side, instructing the different barristers, and they probably would have had different clerking teams to handle the post and the material, no doubt. But that was the fine. Then I'll just look through this. So was made the sub. So he's made the so that's a bit more detail. He was also made the subject of an injunction, and a statement in open court was read by Lavender J at a meeting at hearing in and Lucas' claim against Mr. Barton for libel and harassment taking place on 10th of March 2026. She'd applied to court to enforce a settlement agreement reached by solicitors and those acting for Mr. Barton on 5th December 2025. Okay, so this is a bit more detail. So there had been a settlement agreement reached, but then she applied to enforce that settlement agreement after Mr. Barton had failed to fulfill the terms of the agreement or take any other step consistent with continuing to defend the claim. I see. So it's a bit more than I was saying earlier. In fact, it seems that there had been a settlement agreement and she wanted it enforced in court because he hadn't complied. So in terms of paying the terms, I'm not going to go into that part of it in terms of where Mr. Barton may have been at the time of the hearing, but safe to say, Lavender J granted injunctions subject to a penal notice. Obviously, if it's breached, you can end up inside basically against Mr. Barton on the basis of his agreement to provide undertakings as part of the settlement agreement and the proven order recording Mr. Barton's agreed liability to Miss ALUKO. That's the misspell. It should be ALUKO for £339,000 in damages and costs plus interest. Miss ALUKO was also awarded her cost of the application summarily assessed on the indemnity basis in the sum of 28,593.4. So the cost of her application for that particular hearing, it seems, for the enforcement was £28,000, 593.40, and a statement in open court was also read as part of the agreed settlement. Recorded details of Mr. Barton's social media campaign on X against Miss ALUKO received more than 10 million views. In the course of the campaign, Mr. Barton had made false allegations about Miss ALUKO's father and deliberately amplified and gave heightened prominence to other criticisms of Miss ALUKO, thereby fueling and seeking to engage his followers in a generalized trend of criticism, contempt, and ridicule towards her online. Following his conviction at Liverpool Crown Court on 7th November 25, which I showed you earlier with the judge speaking, sending grossly offensive communications to Mr. ALUKO, Mr. Barton had accepted that his campaign amounted to harassment, that he should not have made the publications. So that's what the barrister's view on it was and is. As I say, that's the judgment I referred to. It's a 13-page judgment, but then obviously there was an agreement after it, and then Miss ALUKO in March 2026. Well, that was the hearing where her application to enforce the agreement or the settlement in December was made, which hadn't been complied with apparently by Mr. Barton. And then we move on to her post about the hearing. So she says, yeah, we've reached the finish line. You can see this is her Instagram, Eniola ALUKO MB. I think she goes by Eni ALUKO though, and she's pinned the Royal Courts of Justice. We reached the finish line. She's got some congratulations, and let me just read what she said about the post. We can see her come in. I'm not sure. Well, there's some music there, but I'm not going to play it because I don't copyright. You know how it goes. But it says it's been a 2-year marathon, but we reached the finish line today. Thank you to my brilliant legal team, Judith Thompson, Samuel Solicitors, Luke Brown, 5RB, that's the barristers, and lead counsel Gervais de Wild, 5RB, that's the barrister. And thanks to my dear family and friends and everyone who's supported. And she's hashtag litigation finish line online abuse harassment. People saying justice is finally served. Congrats, Eni. I believe your legal back. Yeah, because she's a lawyer. I think she's a qualified lawyer. I think she's a qualified lawyer anyway. I think so. But yeah, so that's what happened with Eni ALUKO. As I say, there is another video on the channel about whether men are taking up women's spaces in football and whether that's a good thing or not. But I did think to kind of follow up on this story about Eni ALUKO's court case against Joey Barton, and we'll see what happens from here. Whether he will pay that money. Obviously, if he doesn't, it's penal notice. There's consequences for that. But for now, Eni ALUKO wins her case against Joey Barton. He's been ordered to pay £339,000 in damages. I think, if I recall, was that around 24,000 was the legal cost for the application, or 24 or 28,000 the legal cost for the application. And that's it, man. That's it. So please leave your comments below, all respectful, of course, at what you think about this case. And big up all the watchers, listeners, and subscribers. It'd be useful to have a respectful debate about all of this and the feelings regarding all of this. But yeah, I'm gonna say though, the people who are just being racist and being abusive and just saying horrible things about her just for the sake of it with no basis, that's not nice. You lot should stop all of that. It's okay to disagree with opinions and things like that, but it's also good to be respectful. Do you know what I mean? But as far as Barton's concerned, he's been defeated in relation to this particular matter, and that's it really. Let me have your comments below. But for now, I'm done talking.